Have you ever felt like the world is against you? Just a small problem can make you go crazy. One criticism can stay in your mind all night. A small mistake can make you feel like everything is falling apart. You start to ask yourself, why is life so hard for you? But the truth is, the problem is not life. It is in your own mind. Please take a few minutes to listen to the story about a handful of salt and a river right after this. I promise after this video, you will find the key to make every difficulty feel light like a feather and keep your mind calm in the storm. In the middle of all this busyness, there was a boy named Arav. He was smart and quick, but his mind was like a very sensitive lake, where even a small wave could create a big storm inside him. For him, life seemed like a series of unfair challenges. The hot summer felt like tortured, difficult homework was like mountains he could not climb, and even helping his mother became a burden that made him complain all the time. So Arav locked himself in a small pond of negativity. Everywhere he looked, he saw problems, and everywhere he listened, he heard his own sighs. His unhappy face made even his closest friends slowly stay away, because no one wanted to be near someone full of complaints. Arav felt left behind and lonely in his own home, without knowing that his small way of thinking was destroying his joy. He was like a traveler who was thirsty but poured salt into his only glass of water, then cried because of the bitter taste he created himself. Understanding the pain that was slowly eating his son's mind, the father did not use dry advice. One morning, he quietly took Arav to a small lake near the forest. The water was still quiet and covered with old green moss. He took out a handful of white salt from his pocket, gave it to Arav, and said, "Put this salt into the lake, wait until it melts, then taste the water." Arav did it with a doubtful face. As soon as the water touched his tongue, he quickly made a face and spat it out. "It is so bitter, Father, I cannot drink this water." The father only smiled and said nothing. Then he continued to walk with him for a long distance through thick trees until they heard the sound of flowing water. In front of them was a big river with strong, clear, and shining water under the sunlight. The father gave Arav another handful of salt and said, "Now put it into this river." Arav threw the salt into the moving water. In just a moment, the white salt disappeared in the strong flow of the river. "Now taste the river water," the father said gently. Arav used his hands to take some cool water and drank a big sip. His face relaxed, and he felt very fresh. "The water is sweet and cool. Father, I cannot taste the salt." Now the father put his hand on Arav's shoulder and looked deeply at the flowing river. "You see, the salt I gave you is the same both times. But why is the lake bitter and the river fresh? It is because they are different containers. The pain and difficulties in life are like that salt, they do not change. But the bitterness you feel depends on whether you choose to be a small pond or a wide river." Arav stood still. For the first time, he understood that his smallness was not in his body, but in the pond inside his mind. He realized that when he stayed still and only complained, even small problems became too big, like salt that made the lake bitter. But if he learned to flow like the river, always moving, always open, and always growing, no salt could take away the sweetness of his life. Your life is the same. Pain, pressure, failure, they are always the same. But your feeling depends on how wide your mind is. Arav's eyes were still fixed on the small waves fading away where the river kept flowing to the horizon. His father's words were like a light shining into the darkest and smallest corners of his mind. "The size of the mind," he whispered, feeling a strange movement in his chest. His father smiled and explained in a warm voice, "Pain, betrayal, or failure, they are the handfuls of salt that everyone must receive in life. You cannot ask life to give you less salt, but you can choose to be a pond or a river." For a long time, Arav had turned himself into a still pond. Because the water did not move, every grain of salt stayed built up and changed its natural sweet taste. When your mind stays still in selfish thoughts and only looks at your own pain, you become small and easily affected by small things. A bad comment from friends, a low score, or a hot afternoon was enough to make Arav's pond become bitter. He realized that the bitterness did not come from the salt but from the small container. On the other hand, the river is not pure because it has no salt, but because it always moves. The power of the river is in its ability to let go and receive again and again. It receives soil, trash, and even salt, but it does not keep anything for itself. It mixes everything into its big flow and uses its wide heart to change bitterness into calmness. His father continued, "If you open your heart and learn to understand and share, your mind will become very wide. Then the problems that once made you fall will become like small sand disappearing in a calm ocean." The lesson about the container completely changed Arav's idea of strength. Strength is not having a life without problems, but having a mind wide enough to hold all problems and still keep its sweetness. He understood that to stop feeling bitterness, he must stop complaining about the amount of salt and start to grow his own river. It is a personal journey where every painful experience is a test of his strength and kindness. After coming back from the river, Arav did not become a calm person right away. Instead, a quiet but strong inner battle began inside him. Changing a thinking habit that had stayed for a long time is never easy. It is like trying to change the flow of a small canal that has formed for many years. In the first days, the old pond inside Arav still tried to come back. When he faced a difficult math problem, his first reaction was still to throw his pen and say, "Why is this so hard? It is useless." But as soon as the salt of anger touched his mind, the voice of the river came back. "Are you a pond or a river?" Arav stopped. He took a deep breath and forced himself to look at the numbers in a different way. He told himself, "This is not a problem, this is a chance to make my brain stronger." He started solving the problem step by step, slowly, but without complaining. At that moment he felt that the bitter salt became a little lighter in his steady flow. The biggest challenge came on a very hot summer afternoon, when Arav had to help his mother carry heavy buckets of water from the well to home. Under the burning sun, sweat ran down his face, his hands were tired, and his legs felt weak. His old habit of complaining came back, telling him that life was unfair and asking why he had to suffer while his friends were playing. That was when the battle became the strongest. One side was the small pond that wanted him to give up and feel sorry for himself. The other side was the river that wanted him to keep moving. Arav bit his lips. He did not look at the long road anymore, but focused on the feeling of his muscles working. He saw the heavy buckets as a way to train his body, and the heat as a way to train his will. He started to notice the sunlight through the leaves and listen to the birds along the road, things that his negativity had hidden before. He no longer tried to suffer the difficulty, but learned to flow with it. This process was not smooth. Sometimes Arav still failed and let the bitterness of anger control his whole day. But the difference now was that he could recognize it. Every time he felt his mind becoming small, he reminded himself of the salt melting in the flowing river. He learned to say sorry to his mother when he spoke badly, and learned to smile at his friends instead of getting angry. The battle with himself was not to remove problems, but to make his heart bigger. Arav understood that every time he chose to face problems instead of complaining, his inner river became deeper and wider. He was no longer afraid of the salt of life, because he was busy becoming a great river where no pain could destroy his peace. If you are a pond, everything will be very bitter. But if you are a river, no pain is big enough to make you fall. After many months, Arav was no longer the boy who always complained. The change did not come like a bright miracle in one night, but slowly appeared in his actions, his eyes, and the way he treated the world around him. His old friends, who once stayed away, now came back to him, not because he became perfect, but because they felt a strange freshness from him. A calm and kindness like standing near a big river. His parents looked at him with great pride. They no longer saw a boy who got angry at every problem, but a strong mind who could smile even at simple difficulties. Arav understood a deep truth. The world is still the same, the sun is still hot, the homework is still hard, and the buckets are still heavy. The salt that life gives him did not become less, but it no longer tasted bitter to him, because he was no longer the small pond from the past. When his mind became wide like a river, all problems seemed to disappear in the flow of understanding and patience. He realized, problems do not become smaller, only people become stronger to face them. In the evenings, Arav often sat by the same river, where the first lesson changed his life. He understood that becoming a river is a lifelong journey where he must keep moving and keep his mind clear. The peace he felt did not come from running away from problems, but from the courage to face them with an open heart. Arav's story is a mirror for all of us. Life will always have unexpected salt pain without warning and pressure that makes us feel tired. But remember, the bitterness or sweetness of life is not in fate, but in your own container, your mind. Before ending, I want to ask you a question. In the storms and challenges of life, do you choose to be a small pond or a wide river? Let your answer guide you on your journey to find true peace.